Badger Brewery, the Wicked Wyvern.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Pants, Bikes and Booze Reviews. The sun is over the yard arm, which means it's definitely time for a beer. And today I have got the Wicked Wyvern from the Badger Brewery, based down there in the south of England in Dorset. And this is their attempt at a West Coast IPA. I really like the Badger Brewery. They do some crackers. They do one called the Cranbourne Poacher. And the Cranbourne Poacher is a really good licorice and damson flavoured ale, which I really like. They also do Tanglefoot, which is another really nice ale. They do one called the Blandford Fly, and I've drank it a couple of times. It is fucking vile shit. I'll have to get some and review it, but it's just going to be a rant. So if you see that come up, be prepared for 10 minutes of nonsense. Anyway, let's get back to this beer. This is a 500ml bottle, and the beer is coming in at 5% ABV. It's their attempt at a West Coast IPA, and the spiel on the back says this refreshing West Coast style IPA is brewed with Amarillo, Cascade, and Mosaic hops, which deliver a citrus aroma of zesty grapefruit, a bitter hop character, and a dry hop finish. Yeah, that's a perfect description. Mosaic and Cascade especially are quite popular in pale ales and IPAs, and they can be quite bitter and very, very grapefruity. You know, that grapefruit bitterness. You do get a little bit of, you know, the resin or resinous flavour. When I say resin, when I talk about resin, that's it's almost like a pine or green type flavour. If you ever want to, I'm just going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but if you ever want to try to see what resinous, when I say resinous, when I describe beer, get a pine cone, you know, for like a Christmas tree, or if you've got pines growing around, just bite one of them. They're edible, and just bite one, and that'll give you an idea. And they come from the inside, where the resin is inside the hop. Anyway, I'm going off on a complete tangent there. What else? Oh, and then it's just got a description of what the Wyvern is. I've heard of that actually. That's some mythical dragon. Said to be as large as a castle and more ferocious than the name suggests. The Wicked Wyvern is a legendary two-legged bat-winged beast with an arrow-like barb on its tail. Its frightening presence has stalked Dorset for centuries. Yeah, I've actually heard of that Wyvern. The Wyvern. Ah, that's where I've heard of it. The British Army Regiment, the Dorset Regiment, used that as their logo, or they used it in the Second World War. The Devon and Dorset Regiment used it as one of their patches, their arm patches on their uniform. There's the label, and that is a depiction of the Wyvern, and that's what it looked like. It's got a barbed tail, it looks like a dragon basically. And there's the back with all the spiel on it. There is the cap. Yeah, it's a usual Badger cap. Let me get it in focus so you can actually see. Yeah, these are a really good brewery. I do like the Badger Brewery, and where they come from, Dorset, it's a really lovely part of the world. A place down there called Weymouth. If you ever get a chance, go down there. They call it the Jurassic Coast because it dates back to the Stone Age. It's amazing. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on to the beer. Right, opening it up. One for the collection, on the nose, out of the bowl. Now, I was expecting, when I saw all them hops in there, I was expecting like a huge onrush of grapefruit. I'm not really getting that. The aroma's quite subdued. And there's a slight sulphury note to it as well. But let's get it into the glass. And I'm also getting some floral notes, and I'm actually looking at this glass. This glass is fucking filthy. Oh, it's the curse of the fucking dishwasher. I'm just going to pour it in here. There's going to be loads of bubbles sticking to the side. I'm not going to moan about that fucking dishwasher again. I don't mean my missus either, alright? I'll make that disclaimer now before I get my bollocks chopped off. Anyway, let's get this into the glass. I've got to say that because my missus watches these sometimes. If she hears me calling her the dishwasher, then yeah, that is me. Say goodbye to my gonads, and I will be doing further reviews in the style of Jimmy Somerville. If you don't know who he is, look him up. And then bleach your eyes. Right, there it is in the glass. 500ml of Badger Brewery, the Wicked Wyvern. That is a nice sort of light amber colour. Light carbonation on that with small bubbles, which I really like. There's a head, the 1.5 finger foamy white head on that. Aroma out of the glass. Yeah, slight grapefruit, and there's a little touch of spice and some floral notes as well, which are putting me in mind of British hops that have been used in this, but it's not. So yeah, a bit confused. Let's stop gassing and let's start drinking. That isn't bad actually. If you look at the back of the label, and the description says, yeah, which deliver citrus aroma of zesty grapefruit, a bit of hop character and a dry hoppy finish. It does, but everything's subdued on that. Like the aroma, everything's toned down. And the result is quite a drinkable West Coast IPA. There's a hint of biscuit and caramel malt that you're just expecting to sort of push through on the back end, but again, that's just dropped back into the background, and then you just get some mild grapefruit bitterness and some hop zestiness. I think what they've got on the back of the bottle is pretty accurate. There are some West Coasts out there that you just drink them, and the hoppiness on it is just overpowering. But this is quite nice. It's quite subdued, and I can see why they've done it as well, because American West Coast brewers do not care. They will just throw in as much hops as they can. It's like a pissing competition who can make the bitterest, hoppiest beer. I think Badger have done quite a sort of reasonable thing here, and they've got all the sort of West Coast flavours there, but they've toned them right down. And I can imagine this would be like, you know, your average British drinker, you know, middle-aged British drinker, is not really into them massively hopped beers. Now, I know there's exceptions to the rule, so if you're watching this and say, oh, I love these and all that, yeah, you do, I like them as well. But I'm talking about your average, you know, bitter drinker. They're not really going to like them sort of massive, you know, hoppy West Coast beers. I think the most adventurous they'd get is like Green King IPA or some other fucking garbage, or who's the other one? The Speckled Hen, Old Speckled Hen. You know, if they came across this, it wouldn't be too much of a culture shock for them. I'm sure they, you know, if they walked into a pub and or even someone offered them this, they would they would take that over a can of lager any day and be okay with it. But I quite like it. It's quite drinkable, very refreshing. I've had this in the fridge, and this is cold, and I'm still getting all the flavours from it. Yeah, it's nice. I'd give it a 6.5 no, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I quite like it actually. It would be a perfect introduction if you're trying to get somebody into West Coast IPAs. They really would like this, I think, because it's not too much of a drastic transition from the the big malts you get on the normal bitters that you get over here, and the hops as well you get from bitters. The American and British hops are, they're very different, and this has just got all the American stuff toned down a little bit. I quite like it. It goes down very nicely. It's very drinkable. It's not massively overpoweringly hoppy for a West Coast. It's very much on the other side of the scale when it comes to hoppiness, and certainly West Coast as well. But it's a pretty, they've sort of got the West Coast style quite right. There's no fruit in there, or big fruit in there. It's all about the hop bitterness and the grapefruit and that sort of dry finish, the hoppy dry finish, and that sums it up perfectly. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, and I'd recommend it if you're not a massive fan of West Coast IPAs. I'd say try this. This is very toned down West Coast IPA, typically British. If ever there was British doing American styles, we'll tone down the volume, we're not as loud and brash as the Yanks and all this. So yeah, they've got to put a very British character onto an American style beer. Yeah, 7 out of 10, recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.